Is Ron DeSantis' campaign already over? Look, I've made no secret about this that I am a Trump supporter, but it is not looking too good for Ron DeSantis right now. This is from Newsmax. His PAC official, Steve Cortez, says they're way behind, and Trump is the frontrunner right now for the GOP primary. Ron DeSantis never backed down. Super PAC spokesman Steve Cortez said during a Twitter Spaces broadcast on Sunday that the Florida governor's 2024 GOP primary campaign is way behind former President Donald Trump. We're way behind in national polling, Cortez said. He actually used to be on Trump's team. He said it's an uphill battle. I don't think it is an unwinnable battle by any stretch, but clearly Donald Trump is the runaway frontrunner. Well, I'm glad they're recognizing this. He says that the indictments of Trump gave him a boost, which they did. According to 538 polling website, Trump is ahead of DeSantis 51.8% to 23.5% in a combination of several polls. Now, it doesn't stop there. It's actually higher than that. We look at other polling sites, which we'll get into in a little bit. He says we have a lot of work to do. We have wood to chop. Now, I'm glad they're recognizing this because the polling data has not changed for Ron DeSantis. It's actually gotten worse for DeSantis ever since the announcement. A lot of his fanboys were saying on Twitter, oh, let's wait till he announces we're going to see a bump in polling. He's going to tighten the gap with Trump, and it just didn't happen. It's also hard to compete when Trump is drawing crowds of thousands of people. Now, Trump likes to exaggerate. He said it was 75,000 people there. I don't think that is the case. I've heard 50,000. I've heard it was 30,000, heard 15. Either way, he had a rally in a town of 3,300 people, and upwards of 30,000 people showed up. Even if it was 15,000, people from all over the country flew in to see Trump speak. I mean, it's hard to compete when somebody's drawing crowds like this, when he has this amount of support. Let's get into some polling data. We'll look at some national polls, then we'll look at some state polls. RCP has Trump, Real Clear Politics has Trump up by an average of 30.9%. Let's see if this update actually. Okay, so right now it's still at 30.9%, so a 31% lead. I mean, if you just look at all the national polls, he's up 34, 29, 28, 24, 21, 45%, 36. And DeSantis announced in May of 2020, about May 25th or so of this year. Back in May. And he's actually gone down the polls. He's actually polling in the teens in some cases. Now, of course, national polls are not state polls. But a lot of the DeSantis fans on Twitter were saying, well, when Trump has this big lead in the polls, they say, well, state polling is what matters. So they like to pivot. First, it was wait till he announces, and then Trump still was ahead by a lot. Then they said, well, look at state polls. Okay, let's look at some state polls. Let's go to 538, and we will pick a state here. Let's look at Arizona. It doesn't look too good for DeSantis there either. I can pick any state, and Trump is going to be ahead. It's actually race to the White House is actually a better website to look at when it comes to state polls. So the national field, he's ahead by 32% on DeSantis. And if you break it down by certain states, we can go to Iowa, 45 to 22.6%. We can look at New Hampshire. Trump is ahead by 31%. We can look at Nevada, 52 to 17. It's about 31%, a little less because of 21.7% for Ron DeSantis. South Carolina, Trump is ahead by almost 23%. I mean, the list goes on. I can go to California. 50% to 21.6%. Florida, in Ron DeSantis' home state, he's only ahead by 1%. Georgia, Trump leads in Georgia. Let's see. Let's go to my home state of Texas. 51 to 27. I mean, the state polls don't look any better for Ron DeSantis. This is actually a great website to look at because it gives you projections as well for how many delegates that Trump is projected to get. And if the field never consolidates, Trump is projected to get 1,700 delegates, only needing 1,234 to DeSantis' 453, which has gone down over the past couple of weeks because it was at about 600 that DeSantis was projected to get. And I think it was up to 800 at one point. And then you look at only in Trump versus DeSantis, he is projected to get 2,000 delegates compared to DeSantis' 393. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, this number for DeSantis was a little bit higher. He was in the 400s, maybe the 500s. And I think you're just seeing a lot of people support rally around Trump with the indictments, and he's starting to get in the full campaign mode. He's doing a lot of retail politics. He's doing his rallies again, the indictments, and he's a policy-driven guy. He's talked about 2020 a lot less. Now, even though I agree, you all know that I agree the 2020 election was rigged and there was a lot of things that happened, which I've talked about in previous videos, but Trump has focused less on 2020 and he's focusing more on the issues at hand. Instead of saying things like, well, the election was stolen, blah, blah, and harping on that for minutes at a time, he'll say 2020 is rigged and some bad things happen, but we're not going to let it happen in 2024. I've noticed that he's changed his tune because a lot of people were saying he's focusing too much on 2020, even though a lot of us agree that it was rigged. It just doesn't look at the trend line. The trend line, even for the delegates, they had DeSantis was ahead at one point. After the election in 2022, DeSantis was going up like a rocket ship. He had this big landslide victory over his Democrat opponent, and he was looking like the heir apparent to Donald Trump, and he was the guy to replace Trump. Trump without the baggage is what they were saying. I don't want a knockoff. Look, I like Ron DeSantis. I don't want Trump light. I want the real deal. I want the bull in the china shop, the guy who's been there before, who's been proven to get things done. I mean, the trend line is the same if you go back to 538. Here's for Trump. The polling trend line has just the gap has gotten wider and wider. And I think the turning point was back in February when Trump went to Ohio to assess the damage of the chemical, the spillage that happened, or the train that crashed. When he went to Ohio, I think that was the turning point in the campaign because people saw him as, even though part of it is that he does care, but at the same time, it was politics in that as well. But he was the first one to go. And it showed people that he is concerned about the regular everyday American. And they had the indictments after that, and DeSantis' campaign has not gone very well. I'll play a clip from former governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, what he had to say about DeSantis.
Wait, Ron DeSantis so far. I think DeSantis has really underperformed. He started out, and we've seen this happen before in other races, but he was the one getting all the attention. He was wall-to-wall coverage on Fox News. He was the only one other than Trump that was really getting a lot of attention. He raised a ton of money. He was a fairly successful governor in a big state who got reelected. And then he started, making all kinds of mistakes. I think the campaign is one of the worst I've seen so far, and he's dropped like a rock. And so I think people started to say, well, maybe we're willing to consider someone other than Trump. They took a look at Ron DeSantis and then went back to Trump. So I think he dropped 18, 20 points in the polls.
And he's right. He did. I think people looked at DeSantis when he got on the campaign trail, and they realized, you know what, we're going to stick with Trump.
Now you're seeing other people rise up, and there were a whole bunch of people stuck in single digits. I was one of them. We were all statistically, within the margin of error of each other. There were 7 or 8 different people. One of them, I think, has a chance to surpass Ron DeSantis.
Is it over for DeSantis?
I think it's getting close to being over. I mean, you can always, you see comebacks. John McCain pulled a comeback, and Bill Clinton pulled a comeback. But at this point, he's headed in the wrong direction.
And if you were to describe the central mistake he made, what would it be?
I think the culture wars, the dumb comments about Ukraine, the fact that he's got some strengths, but he's also got some weaknesses. I mean, he just doesn't connect with people. He's not a good campaigner. He's not a good debater. He's a smart guy. Went to Yale and Harvard.
Doesn't lead with that.
Yeah, he doesn't lead with that. Yeah, he says he went to school in the Northeast somewhere. I think everybody was thinking he was the guy to beat, and now I don't think too many people think that.
If the nomination,
I don't think he is the guy to beat. Trump, I mean, Trump is the guy. He's still the big dog, and he's gotten stronger as the months have gone on over the past, like I said, the past 5 months or so. And right now, it looks like he's unbeatable for the Republican nomination. And it's not just that; he's looking pretty good against Joe Biden as well. See, this whole argument that Trump can't win the primary, the general, is just stupid. He already won a general election. He won a general election. He did it in 2016. 2020 was full of, illegal, unconstitutional rule changes at the state level for all these mail-in ballots. You had the Hunter Biden laptop being suppressed, all this other information being suppressed about negative things about Joe Biden and positive things about Donald Trump. You had the Zuck Bucks infusing money into these Democrat states and these swing states, which tipped the scale for Joe Biden. So, and he still got 74 million votes, 11 million votes more than what he got in 2016, which is a record amount of votes for a sitting president. 74 million votes. So you're going to tell me a guy who has 74 million votes and already won a general can't win a general? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to me. But I don't know. I think it's here we go. Trump versus Biden. Trump is leading right now in a lot of these polls, and this was not the case in 2020. You have Trump ahead by 4 points, 2 points, in some cases 6 points, and even some have him up at 7. They're not shown right here, but I think Trump is in a very strong position, and DeSantis has made some huge mistakes. I think he should have waited. Sorry about that. I think he should have waited until 2028. He's only 44, 45 years old, whatever it is. He'll be still relatively young in the world of politics. I think he would have had a record to run on. He would have had 2 full terms under his belt. I don't agree with the notion that, he's going to lose his flame. He needs to strike when the iron's hot. No, because you're going against the big dog, against Donald Trump. I think you had a successful first term. You made Florida a red state. You got reelected in a landslide. You continue to build off of that momentum you have in Florida. Continue to battle the left. You continue to make Florida thrive economically and turn to a red state in a place of freedom. And you have 2 full terms to run on. So look what I did for Florida the last 8 years. You will still be widely considered possibly the best governor in the country. A lot of people see him as that. But I think he had a lot of people in his ear. He jumped in too quick, and I just don't think he is going to get very far in the primaries. I think it's going to be a landslide, honestly. I think Trump's going to beat everybody easily. Then there was this weird, I can't play this ad because of these blockers here, but there was this ad he put out with a lot of people are saying it comes across as homophobic. And I'll post a link inside the description box, so you can look at it. He's receiving a lot of criticism for it, saying that it's homophobic. It didn't come across as it's not a good look because for one, if you get to the general, you're going to miss out on those moderates, the people that are in the middle who are not anti, gay or whatever. I'm not a homophobe. I don't have a problem with gays. I don't have a problem with LG, the transgender stuff. Look, push on kids, I have a problem with. But if you want to dress up as a man or dress up as a woman, do your thing. I have no problem with gays or lesbians. I've known a lot of them in my lifetime. And I was acquainted with a lot of them because I worked with a lot in the past. I went to school with some back in high school, and I just see them as regular people who like something different. If you're a guy, you get the picture. But I don't think Ron DeSantis is a homophobe himself. But I think that people on his campaign probably think his voters see some people on his campaign see lesbians and gays as all the same. There's the far radical left, LGBTQ. Then there are the common sense gays, who are actually more conservative or right in the middle. They just happen to like this, different sex than what you agree with, So yeah, that's my take on it. I think DeSantis' campaign is almost done. I don't think he's going to get very far. And I'm a Trump guy, so I'm going to go for Trump in the primaries. And I think he possibly could have killed his chances for 2028. And we'll see who comes up next. Could be Carrie Lake is a rising star, Byron Donalds. We have a lot of our bench is pretty strong in the Republican Party, but we'll see what happens. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care.